Mike Rowe. Mike Rowe is in the house.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, so he's got a show coming up tomorrow.
He does indeed. It's Talk Dirty with Mike Rowe. I believe it's at where the hell is it? It's
the Paramount Theater.
Tomorrow night, Paramount Theater. You can go to stgpresents.org for tickets or call a phone number like a grown-up human being, 877-784-4849. Hey, Mike Rowe, what's up, man?
What's up, Dan?
Pleasure.
How are you? Likewise.
I love that voice.
Yeah, it's a nice voice. Do you narrate everything?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So, Mike Rowe, you know him from, let's see, Dirtiest Jobs. I know a CNN show, Somebody's Got to Do It. You're the voice of Wicked Tuna. Anything else?
I leave here and go over to some audio place to narrate the first episode of season 12 of Deadliest Catch.
Wow. Really?
So, yeah.
Now, didn't you, and I didn't take umbrage with this, but I didn't think I was understanding it, that you were hired as the host of Deadliest Catch. Is that right?
Yeah.
They don't have a host, do they?
No, they don't. That's what makes it so unusual. In 2002, we didn't know what it was. The network didn't know what it was. They just saw some footage of big waves and guys catching crabs and said, hey, why don't you go up there and poke around and see what this is?
Right.
And so I did. And really, I was working partly as a greenhorn and partly impersonating like Stone Phillips, walking around on the deck of the boat.
You
trying
could
to
do
make
worse,
sense.
though.
And I have. But yeah, I stayed 6 weeks, and during that time, I went to 6 funerals, and everybody I knew got hurt, and it was exciting and dangerous and crazy, and it was a completely new world for Discovery viewers, So we came back and we looked at this, and we're like, good grief, this is amazing. At the same time, I'd been trying to sell dirty jobs.
So that was your idea?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
But I was failing, because it was basically a talk show in a sewer, and no one really wanted it.
It's genius, man.
Well, thank you. But in 2003, Genius and Crazy looked an awful lot alike.
Hey, you're talking to the guy that wrote Breaking Bonaduce.
I got it.
Okay,
No,
man?
I got it.
I thought it was genius.
Well, when I came back, the network, they'd been sitting on it for a year, and they said, look, we've got some good news. We're going to go ahead and order Dirty Jobs after all. I said, look, that's great. So I'm going to host Deadliest Catch and Dirty Jobs. And they said, no.
That's unfortunate, but I can see it.
Well, they said, pick one, and when in doubt, pick the one with your name in the title.
Right, nice. Now, this is so I'm looking at your bio. You don't have to be too flattered, but I'd like to be a little flattered. We quit talking to guests 2 years ago. We said it doesn't help the show any. And then everybody said Mike Rowe, and we all went, oh, yes, get Mike Rowe. So be flattered a little bit. So this one question, it makes another question. The question, of course, is why did you audition to host the QVZ show in a Viking suit? 2, and why are you in a Viking suit? Any one of those you want to answer?
Yeah, I'll take them in no particular order. In 1984, I was desperate to get into the business.
Right.
And as you know, the unions are a very interesting thing in our world. And in a town like Baltimore, where I grew up, you can't get a job unless you're in a union, and you can't get in the union unless you've had a union job.
It's the Screen Actors Guild. Now I'm a member of a couple of unions, but the big one in California, you could not get hired to be in a show unless you had the SAG card.
Correct.
But you couldn't get the job. You couldn't. It was vice versa. You could not get a job. It was a conundrum.
It's a total catch-22. But like all catches, there's a loophole.
Right.
And in 1984, I realized if I joined a union called AGMA, the American Guild of Musical Artists, which oversees the opera, I could buy my SAG card to do the work that I really wanted to do.
That's crafty.
That's smart.
It is crafty.
Right?
He's a crafty guy.
So they're all
he turned actual poop into money. He's a crafty guy.
So I crash an audition for the opera. I learn an aria, this old, the shortest aria I could find from Puccini. And
One
I
of my
audition.
favorites.
Well, if you're going to listen to opera, listen to Puccini.
Right.
So the coat aria from La Boheme. I go and I audition. They hire me. My plan is to simply buy the SAG card and be done with it. I'm not that interested in opera. Turns out I am interested.
Really, it's a thing.
It sounds great. But more importantly, so the rep company, 80 people, 45 women, 35 guys. Of the 35 guys, 30 of them have zero interest in 100% of the women. Of the remaining 5 guys, 3 are married.
Right.
And the only other single guy had a mole on his eyelid, like the size of my thumb, with thick black hair growing out of it.
You think you're doing all right?
I'm the dude, man. All right. So I'm dressed as a pirate. I'm dressed as a Viking.
Right.
I'm surrounded by the best music in the world. 40 beautiful women. I stayed in the opera for 8 years.
It's beautiful.
Wow.
One season, during a production of an interminable dirge called the Ring de Snibel Luncheon, I'm dressed as a Viking. I have no reason to go on stage for 2.5 2.5 hours. So I walk across the street to get a beer and watch the football
in the suit.
game. Dressed as a Viking. I got my spear, I got my giant, I got my hat with the horns, I got the whole thing.
Even in Baltimore, that's odd.
You cross Mount Royal Avenue dressed as a Viking in Baltimore, people are going to blow their horn.
No, you're going to notice you.
But what do I care? I sit at the bar, I order a beer. I know the bartender for years, and he is not watching the Ravens. He is watching a fat guy in a shiny suit sell pots and pans. Right. I said, Rick, what are you doing? And he said, well, I'm auditioning for this job tomorrow. QVC is in town. And they're having open tryouts, and it's a job. And again, I'd never heard of any of this, but I sat there dressed as a Viking, drinking a beer, watching QVC. My buddy Rick bet me $100 I couldn't get a call back if I went to the audition with him. I went. I didn't
in the
get
Viking suit again. I gotta stick with this thing. You're still in the Viking suit?
I slipped into something far more 21st century.
All right.
But I talked about a pencil for exactly 8 minutes for the audition, and they hired me. And 2 weeks later, I was sitting on the air in the middle of the night in Westchester, Pennsylvania, doing my best to A, stay awake, and B, convince my narcoleptic audience that a simulated diamond might be in their best interest.
But you got to go with the ability to talk about a pencil for 8 minutes is a thing. I'm watching what I would have called at some point in my life this horrible woman, Wendy Williams, hosting it. I'm going, how'd you get that show? You have no training. What do you know about
doing?
Right, that lady. Yeah. And then we're about 20 minutes in. She hasn't had a guest. She hasn't had a phone call. The audience still loves her. I think there's 4 people in the world that could do that, and she's one of them. So it's a talent.
Well, it's a very unusual muscle. I wouldn't go so far as to call it a talent, although I wouldn't say it's not.
Right.
But what I love most about 1989 and looking back at that time was that QVC, there's no playbook, right? You can hire an actor and put them on the air and hope they can sell something, but chances are no. You can hire salesmen and put them on the air, but they're going to crap the bed too because they're not used to the cameras. The only way to find out if you're any good at this is to actually do it. And the only way to do that is to do the midnight shift. And the only way to get hired for that is to go through the most unorthodox audition process there is. And that requires you to talk about a yellow number 2 pencil for 8 minutes.
And then you made a career out of talking about number 2.
Well, what are you going to
I'm a genius.
That's not bad. It's very good.
Well, what are you going to be talking about tomorrow when you're at the Paramount Theater?
I have no idea.
You really don't. I saw your website. You actually tell people, what would you like to hear about?
I got 1,400 passionate suggestions. I'm going to go back to the hotel. I'll probably tell half a dozen stories. I'll connect them up in an honest way. But the truth is, I've been shooting dirty jobs, and somebody's got to do it for 13 years straight. And I haven't had a chance, honestly, to sit back and answer some of the questions. Mainly, like, how did this thing start?
I think it's going to be huge. Are tickets selling it nicely?
Yeah, they're doing great. I think we got a few left.
I'll remind everybody, if you want tickets, you can go to stgpresents.org or 877-784-4849. And you're just going to go through stories from your dirtiest job.
Look,
because
well, in the same way that you become suspicious of guests on your show, I've become very, very suspicious of production and acts. And, I just think authenticity, for whatever that means to you, is still for sale today. Dirty Jobs didn't do a second take ever.
I didn't know that.
No, no pre-production, no scouting, no scripts, no writers, no actors, no bullcrap. We actually did what passes for an honest show. So I'm going to bring the same level of care and preparation to this particular appearance.
That's awesome. I don't know what it is that the people do want from you, but I know what they don't want from them. They don't want polish.
That's right.
They don't want, like we've said around.
Like people like us.
We've said a million times on the show, if it just goes smooth, it's not this show. If there aren't some hiccups in it, it's not this show. So, but you can almost do no wrong. Are you still nervous?
No, really? I heightened periods of curiosity come and go.
It's a fairly big room.
It's a big room, but look, I've done a lot of these similar. Like companies will hire me typically to come in and scare their employees to death with true stories of work that make them feel grateful for the job they have.
It could be worse.
That's right.
Which is going to be your third show. It could be worse.
It could always be worse.
Okay, somebody write that down. I said it first.
It's not bad. But this will be a little different because this is the first time people are actually buying tickets, and I'm assuming that they're familiar with the show, and I'm assuming that they'll want to know. Like on that Facebook post, to your point, so many people are saying, I really want to understand how it happened, because if you, not to get too inside with it, but if you dissect Dirty Jobs, you'll find it launched 32 different TV shows.
Oh, I do know. I'm well aware of that.
So, I mean, but it didn't occur to me until 4 or 5 years into it. But if you think about Ice Road Truckers and Deadliest Catch and Axemen, if you think about Swamp People and Swamp Brothers, and
Right.
I mean, we accidentally transformed the cable landscape into coal mines and oil derricks and completely changed it. And I don't want the credit for it or the blame.
You should take the credit for
I'll take some credit.
Yeah, take some credit
you
for
know, but the thing I will take a little credit for is this idea that, look, your show's a perfect example. People want an authentic experience, but think about the things we do, not just in radio, but in all kinds of TV, to get in the way of authenticity.
Absolutely.
Whether it's makeup, whether it's a teleprompter, whether it's, all of these things are constructs, and the viewer, even if it's in the reptilian part of their brain, they smell it and they know it's fake and they hate it. And so I was really proud of Dirty Jobs because, look, it is what it is, but it was never bullcrap. It was always real. Even
Well,
when we
it was
were,
crap.
it was crap for sure.
Right.
It was crap.
Some of it maybe even bull, if I remember correctly.
Hey, real quick, I'd like to say we're talking to Mike Rowe. He's got a show tonight at the Paramount Theater.
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. You can get tickets at stgpresents.org or call, because I still make phone calls, Sarah, 877-784-4849. But I got a pair of tickets right now. They slipped me a note. I have a pair of tickets to your show tonight.
So what are we
Pick a
going to
number
give them away?
between
What are you going
1
to
and
do?
20.
Oh, nice.
Pick a number between 1 and 20.
Okay, got it.
What is it?
Now we have to guess.
Wait. 13.
Honestly, it was 14.
Oh, cool.
I think 14.
You could have given me one. All right, let's go with number 14. Right now, you want a comp pair of tickets to Mike Rowe show tomorrow night at the Paramount Theater. Call in right now, 1-800-252-1025.
Before we let you go, Mike Rowe, you've also got a couple other things that you're working on, like a podcast.
Yeah, actually, you remember Paul Harvey?
Sure, of course.
Right, so
We're out of Chicago, right? Was
Yeah.
Paul out of Chicago?
The rest of the story.
And now you know. Right? Well, obviously,
you're good at that.
I can't do that, but I'm working with this thing called The Way I Heard It, and if all goes as planned, around the 1st of March, we'll roll these out. 5-minute stories. It's not even a podcast in the traditional sense. These are designed for people with a curious mind and a short attention span. So they're little mysteries.
Americans.
Basically, us.
Are you just a little factory of great ideas? I knew it easy when he second. The way I heard it. I get it. I know what it is. That's brilliant, man.
Anyway, that's the way. What I'm really trying to do is manage expectations, Danny.
That's smart.
So, like, if I'm wrong with a fact, which I probably will be, hey, don't blame me, man. That's the way I heard it.
That's Mike Rowe. He's got a show tomorrow night at the Paramount Theater. You can get tickets by going to stgpresents.org or 877-784-4849. Take care of night. Mike Rowe, super pleasure to meet you, man.
Really
It was great.
fun. Thanks for having me and breaking your no guest policy.
Yeah, and it
I'm
is-
flattered.
You're the guy.
You know what? I'll be back tomorrow. I'll see you then.
Good, because we
I'm
will.
never
It's
leaving.
Saturday, Rowe.
The Danny Bonaduce and Sarah Morning Show
Oh, I'm sorry. Did we wake you up?
on 102.5 KZOK, Seattle's home of classic rock.